She had knocked on so many doors that her knuckles no longer hurt. Only her heart did. And yet, when she reached the last one, something in her whispered that this was the door that would answer. Lyren stood in the fading light of an alien dusk, her daughter cradled against her chest. The air of the human outpost tasted of metal and ozone, thin and cold, carrying the scent of rain that never came. Her boots were cracked, her voice long lost to exhaustion. 3 years of searching, begging, crossing worlds that blurred together in her fading memory, all for the small heartbeat pressed weakly against her ribs. Ariel's pulse fluttered like a fading spark, and each one reminded Lyren that she was running out of tomorrows. The door in front of her was old, real wood, not alloy, and that somehow felt sacred. She reached for the small button beside it. Her trembling blue fingers brushed its surface. Before she could press, the door hissed open from the inside. A man stood there, human, tall, his eyes the color of the sky before thunder. He looked at her as if he'd been expecting her for a very long time. Then quietly he said, "I've been waiting for you." The words froze her breath. For a moment she thought she'd imagined them, just another dream shaped by desperation. But the man didn't move. He simply stepped aside, gesturing toward the warm light spilling from his workshop. "I don't understand," she whispered. Her voice was hoarse, rough from the thin air of too many worlds. "You don't even know who I am." "I do," he said softly. "You're the one who knocks." Her knees almost gave out at that. The one who knocks. Somewhere in the galaxy, her name had turned into a myth, a story told by dock workers and travelers about a violet-skinned mother searching for a cure no science could give. She hadn't believed it reached this far, and yet this man said it like a promise kept. She stepped inside. The warmth hit her immediately, the kind that came not from machines but from someone who lived in a place long enough to make it his home. Tools hung from the walls in precise disorder, each one used, repaired, and used again. A small mechanical bird perched on a table, half dismantled, as if mid-surgery. The air hummed faintly with power cells and old music. Her daughter stirred in her arms, eyelids fluttering. "Mama, where are we?" "Safe," Lyren lied gently. "We're safe, my heart." The man closed the door behind them. "I'm Jonas Vale," he said, wiping grease from his hands. "Engineer, mechanic, sometimes doctor when the machines don't want to cooperate." Lyren's eyes narrowed. "You said you were waiting for me. How could you possibly know?" He studied her face, the faint bioluminescent patterns that glowed when she was afraid, the silver veins tracing her temples, the quiet, restrained strength of someone who'd been through fire and kept walking. "Because," Jonas said slowly, 3 years ago, I started dreaming about you." Lyren's heart stumbled. Dreaming? I'd see flashes, a woman standing in the dust with a child always knocking, always moving forward. I never knew if it was madness or something bigger. But every time, you were closer. He glanced down at the child in her arms. "And now you're here." She didn't believe in destiny. Her people taught that fate was a chain, not a gift. But the man's voice had the steady calm of truth. Still, she couldn't afford belief, not yet. "I came for help," she said, "not stories." "Then tell me what you need." Lyren hesitated, then laid Ariel on a nearby table, gently brushing the child's silver hair from her forehead. Beneath the skin, faint light pulsed erratically. "Too slow, too weak." "Her heart is failing," she said. "Not from disease, from dissonance. Our blood carries resonance threads, living harmonics that keep our cells aligned with time itself. When the resonance fractures, the body forgets how to stay alive." Jonas frowned. "You're saying her rhythm, her frequency, is collapsing?" "Exactly." Lyren's throat tightened. "Your species has something ours lost. Stability in chaos. Human resonance adapts. There's a specific genetic vibration that can heal the fractures in her system. And you think I have it." "I've searched across 300 colonies," she whispered. "Every door, every scanner. You're the last human settlement within the resonance map." Jonas looked down at his hands. "I was tested once, a long time ago. Said I carried something rare in my neural pattern, an adaptive field they didn't understand." "Maybe that's what you're talking about." Lyren exhaled sharply, her knees finally giving in. Jonas caught her before she hit the floor. His hands were warm, steady. She hadn't been touched with gentleness in years. "Let me help you sit," he said, guiding her to a chair. For a moment, silence settled. The only sound was Ariel's uneven breathing and the faint tick of cooling metal. Lyran stared at the man who might hold her child's future. His eyes were tired, haunted. This was not a man untouched by loss. She could see it in the way he glanced at the empty second cup on his table, as if expecting someone who never returned. "You've lost someone," she said quietly. Jonas didn't look up. "A daughter, 10 years ago. A sickness no one could name. I built machines, prayed to gods I didn't believe in, and when nothing worked, I stopped building." Lyren's voice trembled, "And yet you kept dreaming." He met her gaze. "Maybe the universe doesn't waste pain. Maybe it sends it somewhere useful." Ariel stirred again, a faint sound escaping her lips, a small, broken hum that shimmered with otherworldly tones. Jonas turned, startled. "That sound..." "She hums the frequencies she's losing," Lyren said. "Her body tries to fix itself, but it's failing." Jonas reached for a small scanner on his workbench and hovered it over the child. The device blinked in colors that shifted between human green and alien violet. "Her energy pattern is unstable, but it's harmonizing with mine," he murmured. "Like she recognizes me." Lyren's throat tightened. "Please, if you can do anything, if there's even a chance, help her." Jonas turned off the scanner. "I can't promise a cure, but I can promise I won't let her die alone." The words were simple, but they struck something deep in her. She blinked hard, tears she didn't want to show burning behind her eyes. "You speak like you've already decided." "I decided the moment you knocked," he said. Outside, the wind rose, a low, mournful sound that carried through the settlement. Jonas dimmed the lights, the workshop softening into amber glow. He moved with quiet efficiency, clearing space, setting up old medical rigs fused with alien connectors. Lyren watched him work, feeling the first fragile thread of hope since the war had taken everything. When he finally turned back to her, his expression was unreadable. "It'll take a few hours to prepare the extraction chamber. You should rest." "I don't sleep anymore." "Then pretend, for her." Lyren looked at Ariel. The child's small fingers twitched, reaching toward the sound of Jonas's footsteps. Even in her weakness, she responded to him instinctively, as if her body remembered him from before memory. Lyren brushed a trembling hand across her daughter's cheek. "She's all I have," she whispered. "Everything else, the home, the stars, my name, it's all gone. If she dies, I die with her." Jonas placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Then she won't." His touch was steady, his voice sure. For the first time in years, Lyren believed someone. She nodded slowly, the tears finally falling, silent and clean. When Jonas turned away, she watched him in the half-light, this man who spoke to her like he'd been waiting across lifetimes. Outside, the last echoes of dusk faded into night. Inside, a faint hum began to rise from the machines, answering the fragile rhythm of a little girl's heartbeat. Two frequencies searching for harmony, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Waiting for what came next, Jonas didn't sleep that night. The hum of the machines filled his small workshop like a second heartbeat, steady but uncertain. Outside the window, the human outpost slept in flickering silence, neon lights struggling through the fog. Inside, he worked, hands stained with oil, mind burning with questions that had no earthly answers. Across the room, Lyren sat beside her sleeping daughter, motionless except for the rise and fall of her chest. Even in exhaustion, she looked like something carved from starlight and sorrow. When Jonas finally spoke, his voice was quiet. "I need to understand how this happened to her." Lyren didn't look up. "You wouldn't believe me if I told you." "Try me, bit," he said. Her fingers brushed a loose strand of silver hair from Ariel's face. "My people call it the fracture. It started as a punishment I defied an order, one that condemned children born of mixed resonance. They said my daughter was an imbalance that would destroy our purity. I refused to give her up. The council cut her thread to the harmony, our lifeline to the energy that keeps us alive." Jonas frowned. "They punished her because of you?" "They called it balance, I call it cruelty dressed as law." He stared at the sleeping child. "And you've been running ever since." Lyren nodded slowly. Every door I knocked on was a plea for mercy. Every no brought me closer to breaking. Ostbarking. I stopped counting when the stars all started looking the same. Jonas turned to his console. I can stabilize her for now, feed my resonance through a synthetic conduit. It won't cure her, but it might stop the decay until we find a permanent way. You'd give her your energy? He met her gaze. If it keeps her alive another day, yes. Lyran hesitated, then stood. The faint bioluminescence beneath her skin dimmed as she stepped closer to him. You don't even know us. Why are you doing this? Jonas didn't answer immediately. His hands paused over the controls. Because I couldn't save my own daughter. I won't watch another one die if I can stop it. Silence stretched between them, thick, aching, honest. Loren wanted to speak but couldn't find words that would hold the weight of what she felt. When Jonas activated the device, a pulse of blue light rippled through the room. The air shimmered, alive with a low hum. Ariel stirred, whimpering softly as the resonance field connected. Her small chest rose unevenly, then steadied. Loren dropped to her knees beside the table, her hand clutching her daughter's. Jonas watched the reading stabilize, a flicker of relief breaking through his fatigue. It's working, he murmured. Loren's eyes filled with tears that caught the light. You did it. Not yet. The field is temporary, but it's something. She looked up at him, her voice trembling. 3 years, and no one even tried. You're the first to say yes. Jonas turned away, adjusting the dials to hide the emotion tightening his throat. Sometimes saying yes is the only thing left when the universe keeps saying no. For a while, neither spoke. The machines hummed quietly, and Ariel's breathing deepened into steady rhythm. Loren sat in the glow of the console, her features softening under the light. Jonas finally poured 2 cups of reconstituted coffee from a battered metal flask. He handed one to her. She stared at it curiously. You drink this? Religiously. She sniffed the steam. It smells like burnt stones. That's how you know it's working. Her lips twitched, a faint smile she hadn't used in years. Your species finds comfort in strange things. Only because comfort's hard to find, he said, settling opposite her. Loren sipped cautiously, then coughed once, eyes widening. That's poison. Jonas grinned. Now you're officially human. The smallest laugh escaped her. It was light, hesitant, like the first song after silence. Jonas realized he hadn't heard laughter in this place for over a decade. It filled the room in a way that light couldn't. When Ariel woke hours later, she looked stronger. Her color returned, and her eyes, those strange, ancient silver eyes, focused clearly for the first time. Mama, she whispered. I'm here, my love, Loren said, kissing her forehead. Ariel blinked at Jonas. Who's that? Loren smiled softly. The man who helped you. The girl studied him for a long time, then said, You look like the stories Mama told me, the human who fixes broken things. Jonas's heart stumbled. Your mother told you about me? Ariel nodded sleepily. In the dreams. You were always there, fixing the stars so they wouldn't fall. Loren's eyes met his over the child's head, both of them too startled to speak. The hum from the machine seemed to deepen, the resonance subtly aligning with Ariel's voice. It was as if some unseen thread had tied their lives long before they met. As night bled into morning, Jonas calibrated the resonance stabilizer. Lyran helped where she could, her graceful hands surprisingly adept at following his directions. There was an intimacy in the quiet moments. Passing tools, brushing fingertips, breathing in sync with the machines that kept a fragile child alive. At one point, Ren caught him watching her. What is it? She asked softly. You don't flinch when I look at you, he said. Should I? Most people do. My eyes, they're cybernetic replacements. They glow when I concentrate. Lyran leaned closer, her gaze steady. Then maybe you see the world more clearly than they ever did. Jonas looked away, embarrassed by the heat rising to his face. You talk like someone who's seen too much beauty to be afraid of broken things. I talk like someone who's been broken enough to stop pretending otherwise, she replied. Ariel fell asleep again, peaceful for the first time in weeks. Lyran stood over her daughter, brushing her hair back. Jonas stood beside her, watching quietly. Do you think she'll remember any of this? He asked. She'll remember the sound, Lyran whispered. Children always remember the sound that means safety. Jonas looked at the softly pulsing light of the resonance stabilizer. Then she'll remember you. Your voice is like gravity, pulls everything back to center. Lyran turned to him, the glow of the machines tracing her features in gold and violet. And yours? Mine? Your voice, it sounds like something lost trying to find its way home. The words caught between them, soft and dangerous. Jonas swallowed hard. I stopped believing in home a long time ago. Then maybe you've been waiting at the wrong doors. He looked at her then, really looked. At the faint scars on her arms, the steadiness in her hands, the exhaustion that still couldn't dim the light in her eyes. He wanted to say something, anything, but the words dissolved in the quiet hours passed in soft rhythm. Jonas worked. Lyran watched. The machines thrummed, Ariel's pulse stayed strong, and the faint dawn began to creep through the shutters as Lyran closed her eyes, whispering something in her native tongue, a song perhaps, or a prayer. What did you say? Jonas asked. It's a lullaby for those who keep moving, she said. My mother used to sing it when the storms came. It means the stars remember even when we forget. Jonas nodded slowly. That's beautiful. It's a promise, she said, that nothing good is ever truly lost. Her gaze shifted toward him. You have a promise too, don't you? He hesitated. I promised her, my daughter, that I'd fix the world she left behind. I never said how. Lyran smiled faintly. Maybe this is how. When the morning light finally broke through, the workshop glowed in soft amber. Jonas leaned against the wall, exhausted but alive in a way he hadn't been for years. Across the room, Lyran sat with Ariel in her lap. The child's hand curled around one of his old tools as if claiming that. For the first time, the silence between them wasn't heavy. It was something else, something fragile and growing. Jonas felt it like a hum beneath his skin. A signal finally answered. He didn't say anything, but when Lyran looked up, she smiled, and in her eyes was something he hadn't seen in a long time, hope. The storm came without warning. A violent tremor rippled through the metal walls of the outpost, making the lights flicker. Jonas looked up from the console, his jaw tightening as red alerts began flashing across the panels. Outside, the sky had turned black. No clouds, just energy waves like invisible fire licking the horizon. Lyran froze mid-step, clutching Ariel close to her chest. The child whimpered, her silver hair catching faint sparks of static. It's not natural, Lyran said under her breath. That's a tracing pulse. Jonas frowned. From who? My people, she whispered. They found me. He didn't ask how. He didn't need to. The hum of the machines changed pitch, trembling under the weight of approaching power. He ran to the scanner, watching as signatures bloomed across the radar. 3 Valerine ships, closing fast. Lyran's expression turned hard, the kind of calm that comes after too many losses. They're here to reclaim her, she said. They'll call it justice. They'll call it mercy, but they'll destroy her to preserve their laws. Jonas's pulse spiked. Not while I'm still breathing. Jonas, you don't understand. If they take her, she dies. If you fight them, you die. He looked at her, eyes sharp in the flickering light. Then I'll die on purpose. Lyran's breath caught. She knew that tone, the finality of it. No, she said fiercely. You promised she'd live, not that you'd vanish. He didn't answer. Instead, he turned to the machine in the corner, the resonance conduit. It pulsed faintly, the same rhythm as Ariel's heart. For days, he'd been studying it, adjusting variables, strengthening the harmonic link between his own resonance and hers. He'd realized something terrifying. The transfer worked both ways. She's stable because part of me is inside her, he said quietly, but it's incomplete. The pattern isn't synchronized. That's why she still fades when the energy spikes. Lyran's hands tightened around her daughter. Then finish it. Synchronize it. He hesitated. If I do that, my neural pattern merges completely with hers. My consciousness won't survive the full transfer. The words hung heavy in the air. Even the storm seemed to pause. Lyran took a step forward, her voice trembling, but firm. There must be another way. Jonas shook his head. There isn't. I've checked every formula twice. She'll live, but only if I give her everything. Lyren's eyes filled with tears she couldn't afford to shed. Jonas, if you die, she'll lose you. She stopped herself, but the silence spoke louder than any confession. He met her gaze, his expression softening. She'll never lose me. She'll carry me. In her pulse, her laughter, her dreams. That's what this process means. Ariel stirred weakly, eyes opening halfway. Mama, is he leaving? Lyren bent down, smoothing her daughter's hair. No, my heart, he's fixing you. The child turned her gaze to Jonas. Will it hurt? He crouched beside her, forcing a smile. Not you, little star. You're just going to dream for a while. When you wake, you'll feel strong again. She blinked sleepily. And you? Jonas hesitated, then whispered, When you wake, I'll be right there, in every heartbeat. The outpost shuddered again as the first Valerine ship broke atmosphere. Lyren looked toward the door, panic flickering through her calm facade. They're landing. Jonas moved fast, connecting the resonance stabilizer cables to the transfer unit. How long before they reach us? Minutes. Then that's all we need. Lyren grabbed his arm. Jonas, please, don't make me lose you too. He looked down at her hand on his sleeve, trembling, desperate, human and alien at once. You said something to me once, he murmured. That the stars remember, even when we forget. So remember me in them. Her voice cracked. I already do. The door control panel blared as the first impact shook the frame. Lyren turned toward it, her instincts shifting from mother to warrior. Go. Begin it. I'll hold them off. You can't fight them alone. She smiled faintly, the kind of smile that hides pain behind courage. I've been alone for 3 years. I can manage a few minutes more. Before he could argue, she pressed her hand against his chest, right over his heart. You were the only one who didn't turn me away, she whispered. If the universe is kind, it'll let me see you again. Then she turned, activating the door seal and drawing her plasma staff from her cloak. The air around her shimmered with electric light. Jonas stood frozen for a second, watching her silhouette framed in the doorway. The broken mother who had crossed galaxies for love, and the man she had found at the end of them. He forced himself to move. The machines roared to life as he lay on the transfer platform beside Ariel. The resonance field flared, bright enough to blind. He felt the first pull, a deep, tearing pressure at the base of his skull as energy began to drain from his core. The sound was deafening, 1,000 frequencies colliding at once. Lyren fought at the door, her staff flashing in arcs of blue and gold. The Valerine enforcers burst through, faceless beneath their armor, shouting in their own tongue. She moved like a storm, graceful, furious, unstoppable. But there were too many. Inside, Jonas's vision blurred. Every nerve burned. He could feel memories slipping. The sound of his daughter's laughter, the smell of earth after rain, the shape of his name. He fought to hold on to one thing. The light of Ariel's eyes, the promise he made. The machine screamed. Sparks flew. The conduits overloaded, sending waves of light through the walls. Lyren stumbled back into the workshop, blood on her lip, her staff broken. She saw Jonas convulsing on the platform, eyes glowing white, and screamed his name. The resonance field flickered violently. Jonas, stop! You'll die! He managed a weak smile through the pain. That's the point. The last words came out in a whisper, swallowed by the roar of energy. The field erupted, blue, violet, silver, engulfing everything in blinding light. Then silence. Lyren opened her eyes to ruin. The machines were dead, smoke curling from melted metal. Jonas's body was still. Ariel lay beside him, glowing faintly. She staggered forward, heart breaking before her knees hit the floor. Jonas. No response, no pulse. Just the faint hum echoing in the room. In a room, soft, steady, like breathing in another form, Lyren lifted her daughter into her arms. Ariel's chest rose evenly, her color alive again. The resonance inside her glowed brighter than ever before. Mama, the child whispered, eyes opening. He's still here. Lyren froze. What? Ariel placed a small hand over her heart. He's humming. Can't you hear it? Lyren listened, and beneath the faint static of dying machines, she heard it too. A rhythm, slow and deep, pulsing in time with the child's heartbeat. Jonas's resonance living inside her. Tears blurred her vision as the outpost alarms wailed in the distance. The Valorine ships withdrew, their sensors fooled by the field collapse. They thought everything inside was dead. Lyran looked at the faint shimmer of energy floating above the ruined machines. "You kept your promise," she whispered. Outside, the storm broke. The dark sky split open, revealing stars burning through the haze. Lyran stood, holding her daughter, her steps unsteady but sure. The outpost was gone, the machines silent, the world forever changed. As she walked into the dawn, the child's heart beat strong against her chest, and with every pulse came a quiet echo. Jonas's voice woven into the rhythm of life itself. "I've been waiting," it seemed to say. "Now go live for both of us." Loren looked up at the first light of morning and smiled through her tears. "We will," she whispered, "I promise." 1 year later, the skies above Alara's colonies shimmered with morning light. The city was waking, its silver towers glowing gold in the first rays of sun. Lyran stood on a garden terrace overlooking it all, her hair loose, her skin softer now, no longer carrying the desperate tension of flight. The scars on her arms had faded into faint, pale traces, like constellations that had finally stopped moving. Ariel ran through the tall, glass-leafed plants, laughter spilling into the air like birdsong. "Don't go too far," Loren called, smiling despite herself. "You'll wake the flowers again. They like it when I sing." Ariel's voice was clear and strong now, her tone carrying a faint hum that made the plants sway, petals vibrating in color. It wasn't just sound, it was energy, Mishaim, gentle, the same resonance that once came from Jonas. Liren could feel it in her bones whenever her daughter laughed. The hum of a life that refused to die. The child stopped near the edge of the terrace and looked back, wind tugging at her silver hair. "Mama, do you think he can see us?" Loren froze, her breath catching. Ariel never called him by name anymore. She didn't need to. The name was a presence now, a sound woven through every heartbeat. "I think," Loren said carefully, "he never stopped seeing us." Ariel's smile widened. She pressed a small device, a handmade music trinket, against her chest. It played a faint broken tune, like a mechanical lullaby. Jonas had built it the night before the transfer. Ariel had fixed it herself months ago. It had never played the same since. "When I hum with it," Ariel said, "it hums back, like it's listening." Loren nodded. "That's because it is." They both looked toward the horizon. The garden shimmered with faint waves of harmonic light. The colony had grown around the ruins of the outpost Jonas once called home. Liren had returned after months of wandering, rebuilding the place in his memory. The humans welcomed her quietly. They called her the Keeper, a woman who spoke to machines as if they were alive. Sometimes, late at night, she still heard the echo of that last storm, but then she'd close her eyes, listen to the rhythmic hum beneath the walls, and she'd know he was still there, somewhere in the threads between her world and his. "Tell me the story again," Ariel said, climbing onto the stone ledge beside her, "the one about the man who waited." Lyran smiled faintly. "You've heard it 100 times. I want to remember it another 100, the girl said stubbornly. Lyran reached out, brushing a thumb across her daughter's cheek. "Then listen, my heart. Once there was a man who fixed broken things. He lived in a place where no one came anymore, surrounded by machines that forgot how to sing. He thought his purpose had ended, until one day a mother and her child knocked on his door. And he said, 'I've been waiting,'" Liren finished softly, because maybe he had been all along, not just for us, but for the chance to make something right again. Ariel leaned against her mother's shoulder. "He saved me." Liren's voice trembled. "He saved both of us." They stayed like that for a long time, watching the sunrise climb higher. The air shimmered faintly, and for an instant, Lyra thought she heard something, a deep, low tone that vibrated through the soil. She closed her eyes, focusing. The hum grew clearer, richer, wrapping around her like an embrace. Ariel heard it too. "Mama, he's here again." Loren's lips parted, tears pricking her eyes. "Yes," she whispered. "He always finds his way back." The girl placed her small hand over her heart. "He's saying something." Loren's throat tightened. "What does he say?" Ariel tilted her head as if listening to something far away. Then she smiled, her eyes bright. He says he likes the garden, and he says you look happy when you think no one's watching. Lyran laughed softly, covering her mouth with trembling fingers. He would notice that. Ariel continued, her voice dreamlike. He says not to be afraid to live again. Lyran turned her face toward the sky, letting sunlight wash over her. I'm trying, she whispered. I promise I'm trying. When she opened her eyes, the air above the garden shimmered, particles of light swirling together in a faint shape, barely visible, like mist. For an instant, she saw him. Jonas. Not as a man of flesh and shadow, but as resonance, form made of memory and light. His outline glowed with the same blue she once saw in her daughter's veins. His eyes were still that same impossible storm gray. He smiled. Loren didn't move, afraid that breathing would shatter the moment. You kept her safe, she said. The shimmer pulsed once, like a heartbeat. And you kept your promise, she whispered. Then slowly the light dissolved back into the air. The hum remained, soft and steady, fading into the rhythm of the garden's wind. Ariel looked up at her mother, still glowing faintly. Mama, can I show you something? Of course. The child reached into her small satchel and pulled out a worn notebook, the cover patched with fragments of alloy and thread. On the front, carved carefully in rough human letters, were the words, "The songs he fixed." I've been writing them, Ariel said proudly. The songs that came back when I learned how to hum right, the ones that make the plants grow faster, the ones that calm the machines, the ones that make people remember they're not alone. Loren smiled through her tears. He'd be proud of you. Ariel nodded solemnly. He says he's proud of you too. They walked back toward the small house at the edge of the terrace. Inside, the walls were lined with old tools, Jonas's tools, cleaned and kept like sacred relics. The air smelled of earth and ozone, a blend of human grit and Valerine purity. Ariel ran ahead, sitting by a table covered in parts. Mama, can we build something today? What do you want to build? A voice, Fruishi. Loren blinked. A voice, Vito? Ariel grinned. Something that speaks when the stars are too quiet. Something that remembers his words when I forget the tune. Loren's hands shook as she knelt beside her daughter. Together, they began fitting fragments of metal and crystal, wiring them with precision. Each movement echoed the rhythm of Jonas's work, as if his memory guided their hands hours past. When they finally finished, the device pulsed softly with blue light. Go on, Loren said. Try it. Ariel pressed her hand to the crystal. The hum deepened, then softened into something almost human. The faintest whisper filled the room. Hello, little star? Lyran gasped, covering her mouth. Ariel's eyes shone. Mama, it's him! The voice was faint but clear, shaped by resonance. You've grown, it said. Keep singing. Lyran's tears fell freely now, her heart aching and full all at once. Jonas, she breathed. The light flickered again, brighter this time. I told you, the voice said gently. I'd always be here. Then it faded, leaving behind only silence, and yet not emptiness. The hum lingered, alive and gentle. Woven into every sound of the house, Ariel smiled, clutching the glowing device to her chest. He didn't go away, she said softly. He just changed shape. Lyran pulled her close, pressing a kiss to her forehead. So did we. Outside, the garden bloomed in a sudden burst of color. The flowers opened to the rhythm of Ariel's quiet humming, their petals vibrating in soft harmony. The sky rippled with faint trails of energy, as if the universe itself was listening. Lyran stood in the doorway, her hand over her heart, feeling the faint echo beneath her palm. We remember you, she whispered, in every sound, in every breath. And somewhere beyond the light, a faint voice answered, I've been waiting. The hum deepened, surrounding the house, blending with the laughter of a child and the soft rustle of living things. The broken mother who had knocked on every door finally stopped walking. The door she had found had never closed. It was still open, between worlds, between lives, between heartbeats, and for the first time in forever, everything felt whole.